Cooking with food storage. So I was asked to talk about like buckets of wheat, honey, the oats, beans, like all the stuff we have in storage that just kind of sit there sometimes. I know I didn't really cook with dry beans until I was asked to do this. So, but do I just keep telling you slide? I don't know how that works. Cool. So why should we learn to cook out our food storage? Like big things for me was like learning new skills. Learning how to mill your own wheat was fun to do. I've been doing it since I had my kids very little. My grandma got me a mill and it was like the best because you could buy a bucket of wheat for like super cheap and it lasted for a long time, and bread is a big deal when you have kids. And it's also helpful when you have a tight budget or you can't get to the store, maybe your bills were too high, and so we tend to go to our food storage when we can't go to the store for everything. Emergencies is good, so if there's a big snowstorm or the electricity goes out, those are good, and it gives you room for creative. I love that with food storage because you can get very creative. Mystery dinners. Next slide. My kids are very familiar with that one. So with the buckets of wheat, I know there's a huge like misconception with the wheat that you can't make desserts and stuff because it just isn't as good as the all-purpose flour, which is not. I mean, the all-purpose flour is really good and it makes everything pretty, but the wheat does great. So you could do your bread, your biscuits, your pie crust. You can make cereal with it. Apparently salad toppings, I didn't try that one, but it's on there. And baking. So again, you don't have to use the all-purpose flour. That's that one.
Hey, Rae,
Yes.
one thing that you don't think of how to use those big buckets. When I was first married for Christmas, I bought wheat. That was our main Christmas gift.
That's a great
Cheap way to
Christmas
do it.
gift.
We had no room for it, so we made furniture out of it. We would drape things over it, put lamps on top of it, so you can't use the excuse, I have no room for it.
This is true. Have you guys seen the
Get one
RM?
of your end tables and have a couple, 3 or 4 buckets of wheat there.
You know, they use their guest bedroom and they put like food storage everywhere and made a bed out of it and stuff. You can get creative. Especially in small homes, you can make furniture out of it.
Even students can get some.
Nobody's gonna judge you guys. I sure am not. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so there's different kinds of ways you can make flour with the wheat berries. The electric grinders are bomb. They can haul out a lot of them in a short amount of time, and you get like the most nutrition out of them. The hand grinders, they suck, 100%. I will not lie. I've tried several times and just gave up. But they're good in an emergency. And so I very much encourage everybody to have one on hand, even if it sits and collect dust. It's good for those moments.
Do you have a brand of electric you like?
I was gifted a food mill one, I think. I've had it for 22 years. It's done really good for me. It's starting to reach its end of life. It gets really hot, so you have to turn it on and off. But I mean, now they have really fancy ones. And I think there's different, for me, if you're grinding all the time, like if that's a daily basis thing for you, you should invest in a really good one just for the quality.
I think there's a K-Tech one, and they used to sell one at the home storage,
Okay.
church home storage. I don't know if they still do, but they used to.
Yeah, they have amazing, they have like up to several $100s. But you can also get a super easy, cheap one too. I very much encourage that over again, the hand meal. Now, if you have kids, it's a great chore for them to do, or punishment, you know. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, again, it's not fun with the hand mill. It's great for emergencies. And like if your electric one breaks, you have another one. And even in emergencies, like if you lose power and stuff, you could still heat up water and still make a simple cereal or something simple out of it. But with it, you can also mill corn and beans and make flours with them too. So if you are gluten-free, you can still do your gluten-free oats and stuff, but don't cross mix them because then it won't be effective. And you can grind oatmeal in it too. I've ground oatmeal quite a bit in mine, but I also use a blender for that too because it's less cleanup.
How do you store your flour so bugs don't get in it?
There's several ways. So after you mill it, or as the bucket.
Like I had some in my garage in a bucket for a couple of years, and I opened it up to use it, and it's got little bugs in it.
Like after you bought it?
Yeah.
Oh, bummer. That shouldn't happen. I haven't had that happen. I know, like, after you buy a bucket, you can restore it in, like, mason jars and stuff. Like, they have the food savers, and you can seal it. That's a good way. I have never had a problem with storage because I buy the big ones from Costco, and I just keep putting the lid on it. Because they're supposed to be able to store for, like, 30 plus years. So gross with the bugs, I'm sorry.
Rae?
You can use bay leaves, repel, if you put bay leaves
Okay.
in the top, and also the oxygen packets help too.
Yeah.
Put oxygen packets in there.
About 40 years ago, the storage industry, when you buy your wheat, they said to get yourself some new buckets with lids. And then before you put your wheat in to seal it up, get a chunk of dry ice and put it in the bottom. And then pour your wheat in and put the lid on, except leave it cracked. And then the next day, the dry ice will have evaporated and pushed the oxygen out of the bucket, then just pop the lid down.
Oh.
We tried that process, and we still have a couple buckets, 40 years old, and there are no bugs in it.
That's awesome and really cool, actually. Dry ice is amazing. I'll have to remember that. Yeah, there's so many wonderful techniques because homesteading is becoming popular again. Everybody wants these wonderful skills because for a while they went away. So you can also freeze the wheat berries too. I've heard of that. I know my grandma did that for a while. With milling them, it's best to use them right away for like the most nutritional value because they, it's great when it's fresh. But if you desire to store it, if it's room temperature up to 3 days, you can, it depends because I just smell things. And if it smells bad, I don't use it. But I guess it's a personal preference. These are just my recommendations. So the refrigerator about 4 to 7 days, and then the freezer up to 6 months. You can freeze things for a lot longer. I have learned that very much so. So if they encourage you to freeze something up to a certain day, I see it as the food industry trying to get you to spend more money on their stuff. So again, personal preferences.
Rae, there's a comment over here.
Yes.
Did you point to me? Excuse me.
Yes,
Mr.
sorry.
Bogart. If I can intrude, down on the reservation, 2 big stones, a big large flat stone and one to grind with. You can grind up your wheat, and it's pretty primitive, and it's what you're seeing here. It's not fun, but it gets the job done. And you can get some flour made up that way in a manner such that you can get it cooked without electricity and such things as that.
The kids would have fun with that. I saw that online, actually.
Have you?
Yeah. There's so many cool ways to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, again, you'll know what's best in your household and stuff. It's the same thing with like canning. Before you eat it, you smell it and make sure that you're good. So when you store it, you want to make sure it's in an airtight container. I use also Ziploc bags. They're amazing. And mason jars. They're very resourceful because you can use them for everything. And yeah, smell it beforehand. I'll just keep repeating that because I don't want people to come back and be like, you said this and it made me sick. So sorry. Next slide. So tips for baking with it. I cannot, yeah, my kids are in here and I knew that they would like the cat because cats are best. There's so many trial and errors with baking with fresh milled flour. So for me, I've had more fails than I would like to admit because it's not all-purpose flour. So it tends to be thirstier and you just don't take in account of it. I cannot tell you how many times I went to go make bread and I did the ingredients and I added all the flour into it and it just will not combine. And you're just like, what did I do wrong? So for me, like the best thing that I've done when making it, I'll put my yeast and my water in there and let it kind of bubble, which everybody kind of knows that. And then add my oil and then slowly add my flour in and just kind of get it to a kind of a smooth consistency and then just kind of slowly keep adding the flour. And sometimes you don't even need as much as the recipe says. Just kind of feel it, and if it's very pliable and stuff and not sticky, it's best.
Chef Brad, who used to be a popular guy on KBYU television, I bought one of these things that it's a Bosch mixer, it's a K-Tech mixer. Anyway, a lot of those mixers, he says you just keep, just like you said, just keep adding flour until the dough starts coming off of the sides of the thing, and then it's done.
I love making bread, everything with bread. I'll try to make it for almost every meal for my kids. But I also have 4 boys, and they eat a lot, so it kind of saves money on your budget too. It's gonna be grittier, and that's okay. Try not to over knead it. I know that makes it tougher. Yep.
It can also depend on what you dial on your grinder. You can make it finer.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can also sift it too. Like if you want to really fine texture, you can just kind of sift it and all the thicker stuff will come out. It's too much work for me, so I don't care. I'll make chocolate chip cookies and other things, and I'm just like, here, enjoy. So that's my go-to on it. Next slide. Thank you. So I'm just gonna move into the honey. Any more questions about the wheat? I'm happy to talk about it.
If you do make desserts, do you use the same amount of flour as the recipe would call for?
You know,
Or do you find specific recipes for that?
I find specific recipes, but I also just kind of make it up as I go too.
Okay.
So I am the type of person that if I'm making cookies, I'll just kind of go by the recipe, but I'll use what I have. And sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not.
Generally speaking, if you're substituting wheat for white, it's a little bit less.
Yeah.
There are some really good whole wheat cookbooks out there
Yeah, there are. And Pinterest, man. Let me tell you what. You can find everything. It's a rabbit hole, though. I'm not calling on you because you're my husband.
No, when I was younger, my mom used to take the wheat berries and she'd steam them overnight to make a breakfast, sort of like, you know, just like a cereal. And so it just plump up the things. You'd still have the husk and stuff, so it would give it a little grittier texture, I guess. But you just add your butter and sugar or whatever you do for your, like, I do it the same way I eat oatmeal. And,
Does it get mushy?
No.
they stay as like individual berries,
Okay.
but they do kind of stick together.
They're chewy.
Chewy.
They're
Yeah.
chewy.
So that's a good thing for like in an emergency if you don't have, you know, power or anything. You can heat up water. I don't know how to go in that way. I'm not good at the emergency type thing because we also have a wood stove, so we can heat water on there. But I'm sure there's lots of creative ways if you have a gas stove and stuff. Yeah. We tried making, we saw online that you can make popcorn with the wheat. And so my son and I tried. And these people had great pictures of it and stuff. And we tried, and it just made the house stink. And it was not a good experience. Fun, especially like when, because we homeschool, so you can kind of get away with these trial and error things. No, I don't recommend it. It wasn't good. Honey. I love honey. I think it's a great resource for everything, and it stores forever. I personally think raw honey is better. The store-bought one tends to have corn syrup added to it to make it not crystallize as much. So it can be used for so many things. And I've also, there was a National Geographic thing where they found like a thing of honey that was there for like 3,000 years, and they took the lid off and it was still good. So it lasts forever. So it has a lot of antibacterial actions and stuff, so you can use it to treat illnesses, wounds. I know if you went to the medical thing, Jake Smith, he swears on that. Like every time somebody in my family gets hurt, I hear put honey on it, and it's helped a lot of things. And common colds, like my family deals with that. I'll make a concoction of water, honey, and cayenne pepper. I just down it, and it really clears up those sinuses. It's not good, but it works. And it's great to have on hand, especially if you can't get on to the store, you know. So I'm very big on not having to go to the store if I don't have to. And cooking with honey is still very simple. You don't have to use as much, so you can kind of cut it down a little bit instead of putting the full amount of sugar in there because it's super sweet. And yeah, so, and you also don't have to put as much water in what you're baking with because honey does have water in it already. And that's another thing that you kind of don't really remember quite as much. Does anybody else have any honey tips or things that like about it before I move on to the next slide? Yes.
I was just gonna say they even make honey powder. Like.
Oh yeah, I have some of that. I haven't used it.
You just add water to it.
Yeah. So beans, lentils, and peas. And so they have, I'm sure you go to the store and you see like all these beautiful colors, and they go in your pantry and they make it really pretty and stuff. And I agree, I've done that too. But they are great. They have lots of protein, and they can be combined in a lot of different ways. You can add them to soups, stews. You can use them as thickeners. Lentils are great. You can make like curries and just add it as thickeners as well. You can go to the next slide. So there's several different ways to go about this. My best ways that I've learned as of recently that worked for me is like the overnight soaking, and it sucks because when you're trying to cook dinner and you just are like canned beans just like all the way, because it's so much easier. You just plop it in the pot and move on. But if you don't have any and you have the thought process beforehand, I don't, but it's great to soak overnight. Yes?
If you have an instant pot.
Yes.
They're amazing.
The Instapots are great. The rice cookers are great, but if it's good to know how to also, because I had an Instapot and I broke mine, and so we learn other ways. So with overnight soaking, when you get your measurements out, you're gonna want to put them in the water, and if you see any beans floating, to go ahead and just remove them. And then with sometimes when they pack them, you can find like rocks and like other things. So it's good to rinse them and strain them and just kind of pick out anything. And you don't have to either, and you can just deal with it. But you put the beans in a pot with what you measured, and you want to go 2 inches above where the beans lay in the pot, so that as they absorb a little bit, you have that room for the decrease. And then it depends on when you go to sleep. Overnight can be anything from 4 to 12 hours. So you can leave them, and then when you wake up in the morning, you just kind of rinse them again, and then add your stuff to it and cook it however you decide the recipe calls for or what you like, preferably, and just kind of move on with that. And the same with the quick soaking. Yes?
My mom had some really old beans in storage for a long time, and they don't do as well. They don't soften out.
Yeah.
And so she pressure cooks those old ones, and that's the only way she said she can get them soft. So if you have old food storage beans, soak them and then pressure cook them.
Yeah. Definitely try to use them.
Instapot them.
Yeah. Instapots are great, man. I loved mine. So the quick soak method, you just kind of do the same thing, the rinse, leave them, soak them for a little bit. And you can do it for an hour. They don't get as soft, but they're still, if you're in a hurry, they still work. And then you just bring, with the other ones, I forgot to add that. When you're cooking them, you add your salt and you bring it to a boil, and then you just turn off the heat and just kind of let them sit there for a while, and it kind of self-cooks with the lid on. So that's pretty much that way of going about it. Next slide. Lentils are actually easier and faster to cook because you don't need to soak them. So the same thing with the lentils, because they're a dry product and they just kind of package them quickly. And you're gonna want to rinse them and let them just kind of go ahead. So just rinse them and then go ahead cooking them. So you're gonna want to also add your lentils and your water to your pot and bring to the boil, and then reduce the boil to a simmer, keep your lid on it, and then go for that. They have some really cool recipes. I actually saw one, how to make hummus with them. And that was cool, getting creative. So they have different types. So like the brown lentils and the green lentils are great for your main dish and side dishes. And the red and yellow ones have more of a nutty flavor and are sweeter. And you can thicken soups and stews and stuff. Some people grind it up and use it as in their baking goods. I know, with beans, I make black bean brownies, and my kids don't appreciate it when they learn that I do that. But it adds protein, and I'm big on adding that to things. And it turns out great. And so you can do that. You can just kind of blend it all up. But I like lentils. My grandparents were in the Peace Corps in Ethiopia, so I kind of grew up eating these more so than not because they have a taste bud for it. Next slide. So, rice. Right? I love rice too. I just love food, so it works. Rice is a great thing to have in your food storage. It lasts a while and you can use it for everything. And it's great, like, if brown rice doesn't store as long. My dear friend has celiacs. And so when I was doing this, I was thinking in mind, people that have food allergies and stuff that are sensitive. It's a good thing to have the brown rice in hand because you can grind that up for that too. I don't know if anybody's gluten free here, but there's a lot of things in your staples already that you can use with that. But you can grind up your rice as a flour too and use that kind of as a thickener in your food as well. So I've heavily relied on my rice cooker and my Instapots, and our rice cooker just kind of died, unfortunately. Our kids and I didn't realize that they didn't clean it, and it just kind of sat there for 2 weeks thinking that it got cleaned. Yeah, I nearly died when I opened it. So we just tossed it out. Kids are great. So it's good to know how to cook the rice. I really had to learn that, and I didn't know how to find a good way to do it until Amber showed me, because I've burnt it to the pans and stuff. And her way that she uses the 1-to-2 ratio, kind of like when you're using it in the pot, but with the rice, she strains it after soaking it to get the extra starch out. I didn't know that was a thing. And then you just kind of bring it to boil. I like adding butter and salt to mine. Gives it a little extra flavor. And you just, again, bring it to a rolling boil with the lid off, and then you cover it. You drop the heat down to like a very low simmer for about 20 to 25 minutes, and you have super fluffy rice, and it's the best. And one thing that I did learn with cooking your rice, I don't know if you ever go put it in your fridge and then you take it out the next day and it's super hard and you're just like, this sucks. I learned that if you add some water to it and you stick it in the microwave, it fluffs it back up, so it rehydrates it a little bit, which was kind of a game changer because I threw away a lot of rice. But rice, it's really good with anything, especially if you go to your pantry and you're just kind of like, I don't know what to make. You could take your cream of mushroom soups or just kind of throw that in. We tend to make a lot of stir fries with it. It's quick and easy. I just buy those bags of chicken from Costco and throw those in the oven and buy their stir fry bag and throw that in. So you can get really creative with your food storage. We made a dessert one night with leftovers with milk and cinnamon. It wasn't like super great, and some sugar, but it was good in a pinch. Again, I know like there's great things online and trial and error. Any questions about the rice? I think we are all pretty good at that. I'm sure I'm repeating a lot of what everybody already knows. Yes?
I was just going to say about the brown rice. Someone told me that if it starts to smell a little rancid, you can rinse it, with hot water and still use it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You can also freeze it, which will preserve it. If you don't have a large quantity,
Yeah.
you can put some in the freezer, and that will keep it from going rancid as well.
Like food savor it, like
Yeah.
really. Okay. I have nothing on this one. I'm sorry. I don't cook with powdered milk. Only time that I've ever really used it was when I was single and I didn't have milk to, like, just be able to buy it, so I would mix half and half to stretch the milk. They didn't know the difference, so it kind of worked. These are the measurements that I found online that kind of work with it. But from what I've read, you can kind of use it in a pinch, especially when you can't get to the store. It's the same in baking, so you can use it in there. Yes?
You can add it to bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just dry?
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of soften that.
Well, and when you're mixing the bread,
Okay.
just add like half a cup or something to the bread as you're mixing the ingredients together.
Okay. That's good to know.
You can actually take your dry milk, reconstitute it, make yogurt with it. You can
Oh.
make cheese with it.
Really?
Yeah.
You can make all kinds of dairy products with it. You make cream cheese.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean,
That's cool. Especially if you, cheese is great.
To make the cheese, you need some rennet.
no, just vinegar.
Oh,
We all
vinegar.
store vinegar.
Yeah.
You need rennet if you're like making mozzarella, but you can make like a farmer's cheese or even cheese that you can cut and melt.
Okay.
Just using vinegar or lemon juice.
I did see online there's that brand, you can find it in the food with all the tacos and stuff. They use it as like a substitute for formula. You can make butter out of that one because it has more fat in it, I think that's what they said, but I saw an article about that one too. But yeah, I can talk, like, this is my last slide. I can talk food storage forever. I don't like the slide thing. I'm not good at that. But like in our household, I keep staples like, I like keeping corn syrup. Vinegar is a must. We have learned, because we have been trying to cook more out of our food storage these past several months because we're trying to utilize it and see what is the best that we can fill it back up with what we eat. So we have a mindset that if there's something in your food storage and it's been there for quite a long time, you're never going to use it. And so it's just best to just get rid of it and find what your family likes. Like we had, Chris Smith's does their annual, like biannual food storage haul where you can go in and buy bulk amounts of stuff. And I saw somewhere that you could buy, like, you can use cream of mushroom and cream of cheddar and celery and stuff. My kids hate it. They despise it. And I bought, like, huge lots. All my friends have been gifted all this wonderful amount because we don't use it. And there's so much in our pantry that we don't use. Like, for us, with cooking, we have meal day, like, special meal days. So like Monday's chili night, Tuesday's pasta night, Wednesday's kid choice, Thursday is soup night, and Friday's pizza night. So I just kind of keep those things on hand. I found a really great whole wheat pizza dough recipe and the kids love it, and it only requires the water, the oil. I use olive oil because I can't eat a lot of soy, but and then you just use the water and you mix it, and it's super easy. You don't need to let it rise too much. I love that part. So we just have like special days, and then every week we kind of alternate it, and it makes it easy.
I have a vinegar question. So I make a lot of cleaning supplies, and so I buy the Home Depot one, and I know it has a higher pH. Would that be okay to cook with if you really needed to?
I wouldn't. I don't know enough about that, so I definitely wouldn't. I know I had some friends that told me about that, and it'll kill goat. The goat weeds that, goat heads, thank you, that like kill all of our tires. But if you use that in your yard, it'll kill it for like good. You can't grow anything again. So, but I wouldn't use it. And vinegar's great to have on hand. I clean with it a lot too. I like the smell of it. but it's got good properties to do that. Yes.
I think for me, to use up my food storage, and like dry milk, I don't really like dry milk, so it's the emergency supply, but it doesn't last forever. But, so for me, finding new recipes to try just for fun, and like you mentioned, cream and mushroom soup, the best pot roast in the world is cream and mushroom soup with a pack of onion soup mix in a crock pot. Makes the best gravy ever. Your kids would love it. They wouldn't even know it's cream and mushroom soup.
If my kids see what I'm putting in there, they legitimately dart. They're just like,
I bet a pot roast they wouldn't refuse, but just trying new things is, I don't know, I like the challenge of seeing what you can
it's
do.
fun, and
We have the internet, so that's really fun.
you can get so creative. And my absolute like favorite thing is trying to make meals with as little as possible. So like I found a great meatloaf recipe, and it's super fast, and you just take Stouffer's and your ground beef, and you add 2 eggs to it and maybe a 1/4 cup of water, and you mix it together and you cook it, and it's great. So I like simple.
What do you use from Stouffer's? Stouffer's what?
The stuffing mix. Yeah. It doesn't have to be Stouffer's. It could be whatever
So,
kind.
you chop it up, or you just mix it with the hamburger?
Yeah, I just mix it in, and you can do the same thing for meatballs too. But I'm not fancy. I'm more feeding my 5 kids, and I'm just like, here you go. So it's super easy. Yes.
I'm just wondering, do you have any experience, have you used the dried or powdered eggs in your cooking?
I haven't.
Okay.
So that's not something I've tried too much.
I've just heard with powdered eggs, they're better in baked goods because the texture isn't as great if you're just eating them straight.
I know I went and had like a certain medical procedure, and they gave them to me, but they had like a radioactive thing so that they could see it, and they were disgusting. So that was my personal experience with it.
I was thinking about completely sugar-free options because my mom can't digest sugar.
Is it the same with honey too?
No.
No.
She can have raw honey,
Okay.
but it's complicated. But there was a bacteria introduced into her gut biome that turns the regular sugars into poison.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I mix honey in with all my stuff. It's great to hand. I don't really like granulated sugar, but so if you're cooking with the honey, just kind of the recipe just again decrease the amount of honey that you would use in it. And
I'm just thinking about because there are so many canned goods that have sugar and dextrose, and she can't eat those. So
that's like using the non-cans, like they're convenient, but like the beans, the rice, you can just go ahead and cook them straight from the containers instead of the convenience.
My rule with eating food in general and to stay healthy is if there's a long list of chemicals in the makeup of the substance, I do not consume it.
Yeah.
And the problem is the thing that was bad last year just gets a new name and put back in a lot of these things because that's how it works. If you don't know what it is, don't eat it.
Well, it's all the added preservatives too. But yeah, I mean, getting creative is great, and you can find simple recipes and stuff. But that's
Can I just say one thing that sits on my heart a lot? We know from prophecy that things are going to get much, much worse. And from my studies and research, the food supply worldwide is being compromised extremely right now. And if we don't have storage, and if we are not listening to what the prophets have been telling us and having having this extra food on hand, I mean, inflation alone, we saw what happened in COVID, you couldn't get a whole bunch of stuff, all of a sudden. And for the people who aren't prepared, they are gonna run to the store and clean out the shelves. So I just have such a testimony of the Lord trying to help us prepare spiritually, temporally, physically, because if we're not prepared, there won't be any place to go. You can't go to the store and stock up because you don't have anything. It's just not gonna be there.
Yeah, at our recent state conference, I forget his name, but he was talking about how we as a church, we talk about food storage, we talk about being prepared and stuff, and when COVID happened, we were all running to the stores, and he was like, it's kind of embarrassing, because here we are preaching about it, and there we were, you know. So it is good to have on hand, and it's great to know these skills, because they're really cheap to have on hand, maybe not the powdered milk, but a lot of the other things. And if you learn these skills, you don't have to rely on the convenience of, I need canned beans to do this. You could be a little bit more involved in making it. Yep.
Just to add on to what she said, 3 or 4 years ago, 50 pounds of wheat was $22. Right now it's 40. And so if you want to get some food storage, you should start getting it a little at a time, because the price of food is going up. And even if you think, oh, I'll never use it, it's better to have it than to not.
Yeah.
And start at the home storage center of the church, because they have the basic stuff, the cheapest you can buy.
Yeah.
And most of the prices have gone down this year from last year at the home storage center.
Have they?
Most of them.
It's
yeah.
an election year. They're supposed to go down.
Yeah, they have the papers up there listed.
Yeah.
We bought
Guard-
a really good can opener. It's a swing-a-line with a big crank on it from Amazon. It opens the number 10 cans like.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's hard
And so
sitting
that's
there.
what you need, is a good can opener.
Also with the hand mills, it's great to invest in a good quality one. I have, again, a super cheap one, but if you will plan to grind a lot of wheat, they have some pretty amazing. They have one that's like a cast iron one, and it will last for a long time. And it's easier, it has like a nicer pull instead of.
It's also good if you need to grind your bones to make the bread.
Really, Joe? Yes.
I was just gonna say, the last 3 weeks, my family's been doing a pantry challenge. So we're trying not to, I mean, if we do need to go to the store to buy food, we've got $10 a week to go on. But we haven't had to use that hardly at all. We've been going through stuff I've bottled, stuff in the freezer, stuff in my pantry, trying to use the older stuff that's been sitting there the longest first. And it's really helped me become a lot more creative. And I've decided, you know what, next January, I'll maybe extend it and go a couple more weeks. Because it's taught me a lot about what I eat and what I don't eat, what I'm wasting my money on. And just becoming more creative. I mean, I'm cooking so much more from scratch now and realizing
It
hey,
feels
I'm not
good
such a
too.
bad cook, you know, I'm saving a lot of money too.
Yeah. It's great. Yes.
Can you tell us the difference between hard red wheat and hard white wheat? And is there a preference?
I don't know. Yes.
Okay,
So the hard white wheat has less protein content, which makes anything you bake with it more tender. The red wheat is higher
protein.
Yeah,
So then, like the buckets you get at Costco would be
the red probably.
okay.
I just want to say spelt is really good to put in storage.
Okay.
Because you hardly know it's whole wheat. It's one of the original grains that was never hybridized. And I love cooking with it. In fact, I cook strictly with that, and you don't
Okay.
even know it's whole wheat.
So where do you buy that at?
I get it at Bosch Kitchen Center in Orem. You can buy big bags, but the price is going up.
What is it again?
Spelt, S-P-E-L-T. It's the original grain. I think it's the grains they
Is it
found in the
Kamut?
no,
Or is that-
Kamut's something different.
Do you buy it in berries?
Yes, yes. It looks just like wheat. And it goes through your grinder the same. I love cooking, but I cook strictly with that. However, I have my 1,000 pounds of wheat that we did years ago. They used to tell us you gotta have 1,000 pounds of wheat in your basement. So we all did that. Us older people, it's still there.
Wow. Yeah,
But-
it's
But they
it's an
found
inheritance.
wheat, they found wheat in the Egyptian pyramids
Mm-hmm.
5,000 years ago that they were able to plant. That's another thing, if you've got old beans, wheat, whatever, you can plant it.
Yeah, that's on my list to try to plant
Yeah.
some wheat and just kind of see how that goes.
I threw some in the garden and really, it grew.
Really?
Yes, I harvested it and I ground it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
See, I love stuff like that. And as you like with the economy rising, like the prices and everything, and I am very big on things are gonna get really bad. So I try to learn all these different types of skills, but you're gonna be 100% more richer knowing how to do these skills and stuff, because sadly, if things get really bad and you know how to do these and your neighbor doesn't, you can kind of help them learn to know how to do these things and to not have to be that person that's at the store freaking out that I don't have this food, you know? And when you're, a lot of food storage items doesn't have those preservatives, so they're better for your systems too.
Salt is an essential item in food storage
Yes.
as well.
Salt is very good.
And if you can get the kind that does cake,
Clumps.
yeah, clumps, it's much, much better for you. The salt that's been put in ovens that makes it flow easily, gives you the help.
Yeah,
The regular
I meant to put salt in
real
here.
salt.
Winco has a 50-pound bag for $50 of Himalayan salt.
Wow.
I like Redmond's. My brother-in-law works there, and I've really grown. It's sweeter. What were?
I was just gonna say, another thing that we don't ever talk about is your body products. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
they're gonna run out and we wouldn't be able to get them, so I have learned to make every body product.
Really?
And I have stuff in storage to do.
You and I should be friends.
Yeah, and it's not that hard.
I know, like, I don't know a lot about making the body products. Like, I just learned how to make dry shampoo. I know, like, you can get it at the store, but it's just cornstarch. Like, just use a little bit of it, put an essential oil in it, and I don't have to spend $7 on a can that makes my hair kind of sticky. But I did buy some tallow from the Springville Meat Company, and I've seen lots of different products that you can make with that, soaps and stuff. So there's a lot of great ideas that I wish that I had more skill set to prepare you guys.
Very good.
Thanks.
One last plug, that Safely Gathered in website has all kinds of stuff,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so does the church website for Provident Living. They have
SafelyGathered.in.
Yeah, you can also, like on the email, they have an app that you can get to. It's like on a different site, but you can see everything on there too. I just downloaded that too, because I always would get the email and then I would lose the site. So, but yeah. Any other questions? Thanks for coming.
Thank
and
you.
listening to me talk for a while.